Hey guys, tonight we ride into a tale where insults sting deeper than a rattlesnake bite, and one girl's height puts her pride and maybe her life on the line. They said she was too short to be a bride, too little to matter, too easy to overlook. But not all dangers in the West wear bandanas and ride horses. Some show up wearing lace gloves and cruel smiles. If you like tales that start sweet but twist like barbed wire, this one's for you. Like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know where y'all are listening from. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing on a wooden crate in the middle of Miss Arlena's sewing parlor, surrounded by bolts of calico and whispered judgments. It's spring, courtship season, and you're getting fitted for the town parade dress. Or you would be, if the seamstress would stop laughing. "Darling, you sure you want this pattern?" she drawls, fingering the catalog page like it might bruise. "This here's designed for a taller figure. You'd vanish in it." You force a smile, shrug. "Maybe I'm not meant to be seen then." A few girls titter in the corner, their eyes like pins. You step down, your boots hitting the floor with a little more thud than needed. Miss Arlena leans close. Her breath smells of cinnamon and scorn. "You got a pretty face, sugar. But men want a wife. They don't gotta bend down to kiss." You nod, like you agree, like it doesn't hit bone. Later that day, you walk past the mercantile windows, glass so clean, it throws your reflection back like a slap. Behind you, posters flap in the wind. Spring cotillion, all ladies welcome, proper dancewear required, no unchaperoned mixing past dusk. You adjust your shawl, you'll go, you always go, but you already know how it'll unfold. The tall girls get picked first. That night, the town hall shimmers with lantern light. Fiddles play the same 3 tunes. Boots scuff against the worn plank floor. You hover near the lemonade table, pretending to savor every sip. Around you, laughter bursts like corn on a skillet. Girls spin, skirts swaying. A boy with straw-colored hair glances your way, then dances with Clara Mayfield, tall, honey blonde, and stitched like a dream. Your smile flickers. You tell yourself it's fine. You're used to being part of the wallpaper. But then, a tap on your shoulder. You turn. He's got a limp, but he stands straight. Dark coat, silver collar pin, a scar near his eye that isn't trying to hide. "Evening," he says, voice like cracked cedar. "Dance with me?" You blink. "You sure?" He smirks. "I don't ask twice, ma'am." You place your hand in his. His grip is warm, solid. The music slows. As he leads you into the whirl of skirts and laughter, someone whispers behind you, "That's Colt Bellamy. New money. Real strange." But he doesn't seem strange to you. He seems real. You dance 2 songs. No one's ever asked you for 2. When the second ends, you half expect him to tip his hat and vanish. But instead, he guides you outside, to the porch swing behind the town hall. The moon hangs low. Mules bray faintly in the distance. "You from here?" he asks. You nod. "Born in the old stagecoach station, before it was the post office." He chuckles. "That explains the spine. You didn't blink once when that tall girl tripped you." You smile, slow and a little sharp. "Didn't think anyone noticed." "Oh, I notice plenty," he says, staring at you like he's reading secrets off your face. A breeze lifts your hair. Somewhere inside, someone sings off-key. The scent of tobacco and fried pie drifts out the open windows. Colt leans forward. "I got a proposition for you. Might sound strange. You game?" You tilt your head. Stranger than asking the shortest girl to dance. He grins. Fair point. Then he says something no one's ever said to you. I need a fiancé, just for show. 1 month. I'll pay in land. You laugh. Then you see he's not joking. Why me? You ask. He looks straight at you. Because you're overlooked, and right now, I need someone no one suspects. You don't answer right away. Because truth is, you've spent most of your life wishing someone would suspect you of something other than being forgettable. And here he is, offering not just land, but a story, one where you matter. You take his hand, and for the first time that night, your heart stands tall. You didn't think one dance could change the way people look at you. But when Sunday morning comes and the church pews fill with starch-stiff collars and sunbonnets, you feel it, whispers, glances. Mrs. Redden pauses her hymn to squint at you, then lean into her daughter. Even the preacher clears his throat before the sermon and says something about unexpected unions in unexpected times. Colt Bellamy doesn't attend. Of course he doesn't. He's not a man who asks permission from pastors or the public. That afternoon you walk to the general store, need flour, matches, maybe licorice if it's still 2 cents a stick. You don't expect to find Clara Mayfield on the porch, draped over the railing like it's her personal fainting couch. She looks you up and down like she's measuring a tree stump. Didn't think you liked dancing, she says. You smile, soft and plain. Didn't think you noticed I existed? She smirks. I didn't. But Mr. Bellamy sure changed that. You pick your flower and walk away. Some battles don't need words. Just the silence of being chosen. By Thursday, half the town has opinions. Mrs. Redden sends a pie for the poor little bride who won't reach the altar. Old man Griggs offers to build you a stool for the ceremony. You laugh. Pretend it's all harmless. But some cuts come quiet and deep, like river ice. You try not to flinch when they mention the word bride, because it's not real, not yet. Colt comes back into town with a buckboard full of fence posts and a fresh coat of dust on his boots. He walks into the mercantile while you're browsing buttons. Afternoon, Miss Not-So-Tall, he says. You raise an eyebrow. Afternoon, Mr. Talks Too Much. He grins. Got a dress picked out for Sunday. Don't need one, you reply. Ain't nobody getting married. He nods, like that doesn't bother him. Still, he says, you might want something nice. I sent word to the justice. He'll need to see papers by month's end. You pause. You are serious? His gaze settles on yours, even and unreadable. Dead serious. That evening you sit on your porch with a tin cup of lukewarm chicory. Your aunt hums inside, sewing patches into the same pair of overalls for the 3rd time. The sun dips behind the cottonwoods, and you think, is it worse to pretend you belong to someone, or to always belong to no one? A mule brays in the distance. Wind stirs the dust. You make your decision with the steadiness of someone who's been laughed at enough. You ride out with Colt the next morning. His wagon creaks under the weight of supplies, nails, coffee, a coil of rope, and a heavy wooden trunk. You bring just one satchel. Inside it, 3 dresses, your father's Bible, a locket with no picture inside. You bounce along the trail in silence for a while. The road narrows, birds scatter from the trees. Finally, you ask, so why me? Really? Colt flicks the reins. The horses snort. I told you, you're the kind of girl no one suspects. No gossip, no baggage, no big brothers with shotguns. You frown. That's a backhanded compliment if I ever heard one. He chuckles. Maybe. But I also figured you could handle yourself. You glance at him. Why's that? Because when that dressmaker mocked you, you didn't cry or stomp. You just looked her in the eye like you were 10 feet tall. You look away, lips twitching. Well, I was standing on a crate. It takes half a day to reach his ranch, if you can call it that. It's more of a shell, rough-hewn logs, one tall barn leaning like it's tired, and a cabin with a chimney made of river stones. No hands in sight, no smoke from the flue. You climb down, boots crunching dry grass. This it? You ask. He nods. For now. You stare at the cabin. Looks haunted. He looks at you. It is. Inside, it smells of pine, salt pork, and secrets. There's only one bed. You stare at it. Then, at him, he raises both hands. You'll take the bed. I'll take the barn. We ain't married, remember? You nod, slow. But still, there's something odd in how quickly he offers that, like he expected a fight. You explore the shelves. 2 books, 1 pistol, a broken compass. On the table sits a tin plate with dried blood on the rim. You point. Chicken? He shakes his head. Coyote. You squint. It bled that much. He doesn't answer. That night, you lie in the too large bed under a quilt that smells of ashes and cedar. The wind howls through the cracks. Somewhere a hinge creaks, then silence, then a click. You sit up. Listen. Another click. Softer this time. Metal against wood. You creep to the door and tug it. Locked. From the outside. Morning comes, slow and cold. You wake with your fists clenched beneath the quilt, your breath fogging faint in the air. The door's still locked. But now, there's a rustling just beyond it. Boots on dirt. A low whistle. The sound of a man moving like he doesn't want to be heard. Then the lock snaps. The door creaks open a few inches. Colt's face appears. Unreadable as ever. Sorry, he mutters. Habit. You swing your legs off the bed. You lock your guests in often. He leans on the frame, tapping his cane once against the floor. Only the ones who might snoop. You stare at him. He stares back. I was protecting you. He adds, the wolves came close last night. But his eyes say something else. Something you can't quite name. Over coffee and burned beans, the silence stretches. You eat with your fingers. He sharpens a knife slowly, edge over stone, rhythm steady. You don't ask what it's for. You don't ask why he really brought you here, because you're not sure you want the answer. Midday, you explore. The barn is empty, except for a mule, a saddle missing 1 stirrup, and a row of marked posts, tiny knife-slashed lines carved into wood, counting something, maybe days, maybe something else. You find a stack of ledgers, water-damaged and brittle. Inside one, columns of names, some crossed out, one circled in red pencil. B. Weller, paid in blood. You frown, close it. Your thumb comes away with a red smear. Ink? You sniff. Not ink. Later, Colt finds you sitting on the porch rail, face to the sun. You'll need boots, he says. Good ones. Storm's coming. You glance at the sky. Blue, cloudless. He shrugs. It always looks calm before it kicks you in the teeth. You nod. That much you understand. Tell me something real, you say. Anything. He pauses. Then, my brother was taller than me. Braver, too. He died in a duel he didn't start. You don't speak, because something in that sentence is frayed, like a rope that snapped in the middle and tied again just to look whole. You cook dinner. He fetches firewood. It feels almost normal. Until dusk settles like a warning. Then Colt lights 2 lamps, checks the window latches, and locks the doors. Again, this time you say nothing, but you stay awake, listening. The wind outside moans low and weird, Then, laughter, far off. Not human, not quite. You grip the locket beneath your shift, fingers trembling. Colt doesn't stir, not even once. In the morning, something's hanging from the gatepost. A rabbit. Dead, gutted. Its ears pinned to a square of bark, with a thorn. Colt takes it down before you can say a word, tosses it into the fire. When he catches you watching, he says, "Coyotes like to send messages." You nod, even though everyone knows coyotes can't write. At noon, he shows you the spring. Clear water, cold enough to crack teeth. He tells you not to drink unless he's tested it first. You ask why. "Because people get sick out here," he says, "and not from the usual things." There's something in his voice. Not fear, exactly. Memory. You find an old mirror nailed to the inside of the outhouse door. The glass is cracked, edges gone silver. Your reflection looks older, smaller, tired. You press a hand to your own cheek, trying to remember who you were a week ago, before the dance, before the proposition, before Colt Bellamy. That evening, over a weak stew, you ask, "Why me?" He chews slowly, swallows, sets the spoon down. You already asked that. "I want a better answer." He looks at you like he's measuring how much of the truth you can carry. Then he says, "Because you were the only one in town who didn't try to marry up, and I needed someone not chasing gold." You nod. But deep down, you know that's only part of it. The rest's still buried. Maybe under the barn, maybe under his skin. After dark, you leave your door ajar. Just a little. He doesn't lock it, but he does slide a chair in front of his own door. And in the night, you hear him talking in his sleep. Just one name. Over and over. Maybelle. You're chopping carrots when Colt walks in, smelling of horse and gun oil. He doesn't speak right away. Just hangs his coat, sets a folded paper on the table, and leans against the counter like he owns the air between you. You glance at the paper. "That my contract." He smirks, sort of. Just says, "You're my fiancé. 1 month. Sign it, and I'll sign the deed over after." You dry your hands on your apron. Why the sudden rush? He taps his cane once, because folks are asking questions, and I like staying out of their mouths. You pick up the paper, read it twice. It's not long, just a few lines scrawled in blocky handwriting. One sentence stands out. All terms expire in 30 days, or sooner, if either party dies. You raise an eyebrow. That a joke? He doesn't blink. Should it be? You sign, anyway. He signs next. Quick. Precise. No hesitation. Then he folds the paper and slides it into his vest pocket. "It's done," he says, but something in his voice sounds like it's only just beginning. That night, you sit on the porch while the moon rises. The air is still, too still. No crickets, no frogs, just the wind, and Colt pacing behind you, slow and steady, like he's measuring each step. He stops only when he hears your voice. "Tell me about her." He doesn't answer. You try again. "Maybelle." Silence. Then, soft. "She was tall. That's what folks like to say, but it wasn't the first thing I saw." You don't press. He speaks like someone unraveling a rope that's tied too tight. She had a laugh like glass breaking. Beautiful, but dangerous. You glance at him. "She died here." His hands curl into fists. "She left here. I buried her later." The next morning, Colt is gone before dawn. You find a note on the table. "Don't go near the saddle house." Of course, you do. It's not locked. Inside, the air is stale and cold, like the place hasn't breathed in years. Dust settles on everything. Saddles, broken spurs, a wooden trunk with initials carved deep into the lid. MB. You open it. Inside, A red dress, moth-eaten but folded carefully. A photo of Colt with a tall woman whose face is half burned away by time. A hairbrush with gold strands still tangled in its bristles, and a scrap of parchment tucked beneath the lining, brittle and yellowed. She wasn't yours. She never was. You step back, heart thudding. The door creaks, then slams shut. You whirl, but no one's there. You push it open with shaking hands, step into the light, and run back to the house. Colt's there, sitting at the table like he never left. Went snooping, didn't you? He says. You don't deny it. He nods. You were bound to. You plant your hands on your hips. What happened to her? He meets your eyes. She ran. That's not what you said before. I say a lot of things, he says. Most of them are true, some of the time. Later you clean the dishes while he sharpens knives again. The sound grates your nerves. You finally speak. Why bring me here? You didn't need a pretend fiancé. You needed a ghost replaced. He stops, sets the knife down. You're not her, he says. That's why I brought you. It's meant to sound like comfort, but it lands like a stone. He spends the night in the barn again. You don't sleep. Just watch the moon move across the ceiling, waiting for something you can't name. At one point, the wind howls. A voice calls out, faint, feminine, distant. Your name. You sit up, heart galloping, but when you open the window, there's only fog and fence posts and silence. The next morning, Colt limps in carrying 2 rabbits and a wild look. We've got company, he says. Who? Someone who don't knock. Someone I hoped was dead. You grip the edge of the table. You want me to leave. He looks at you, long and hard. No, I want you to play your part. What part? He reaches into his coat and pulls out a silver ring. The stone is cloudy. The band is warm. He places it in your hand. You're not my pretend fiancé anymore. Not today. You stare at the ring, then at him, and for the first time you can't tell which part is the lie and which one might be real. You ride into town beside Colt, your back straight, your fingers cold around the reins. The ring fits loose on your hand, slips every few minutes, like it knows you don't belong in it. Colt rides tall despite the limp, doesn't speak. He hasn't spoken much since he gave you the ring. Just short nods, gestures, eyes like storm glass waiting to crack. The townsfolk watch from porches and behind curtain slits. You feel their stares like needles. At the saloon, Colt dismounts and ties his horse with one hand. You do the same, trying to mirror his calm, even though your heart feels like it's kicking down the inside of your ribs. Inside, the piano stops. All sound goes still, then slow clapping. A woman steps forward from the bar, tall, dark dress, red gloves that don't belong in this dusty town. Well, she says, her voice thick with honey and something sharp. The groom lives, and he's brought a toy. You don't flinch. Colt doesn't move. The woman smiles. Her teeth are too white for a frontier girl. I thought you choked on regret, Colt. Or was it guilt? He steps forward, cane tapping once. What do you want, Esther? Her smile vanishes like smoke. What's mine? You speak before thinking. Which is? Her eyes cut to you. The ranch, the ledger, his name. She laughs. Not you, sweetheart. You're just a witness. You don't look at Colt, but you can feel the tension knotting in the space between you. He says nothing. The silence stretches. Esther shrugs. I'll give you until Sunday. Then I take what's mine, with or without signatures. She leaves behind a scent of lavender and rot. On the ride home, neither of you speak until the ranch is in sight. Then Colt says, "She's not my wife." You look at him. "But she was." He nods. "And I never said she wasn't." The land feels different now, like it's waiting to pick sides. You unsaddle your horse. Colt's already in the cabin, pouring whiskey like it's medicine. You ask, "What's in the ledger?" He hands you the bottle. Then he tells you. The ledger holds names, transactions, promises, some written in blood, not metaphor, real blood. She kept it. Said it was leverage, he says. Names of every man who paid her to make someone vanish or go silent. You sip the whiskey. It burns down slow. "Why do you have it?" "Because I stole it before she burned the place down and vanished." You nod. "Was Maybelle in it?" You ask. He hesitates. Then, "No." A lie. You feel it. That night, you sit on the porch and stare at the horizon. Coyotes howl in threes. An owl calls once, then goes silent. And you realize, this place has always been haunted, not by ghosts, by the living who won't let go. You go to bed and dream of fire, not the warm kind, the kind that eats houses and names. You wake to voices, not whispers, not Colt's half-mumbled sleep words. Voices, clear, sharp, just outside the window. You slip from bed, pull the curtain aside. 2 riders, 1 man, 1 woman, both tall, both armed. The woman has braids coiled like rope and a long scar running from temple to collarbone. Colt steps out to meet them with a rifle slung casual over one shoulder. You can't hear the words, but the posture's enough. This isn't a friendly visit. The woman spits on the porch, then rides off without looking back. The man lingers, stares at you through the window, tips his hat, and follows. Over breakfast, you ask the question you've been holding like a live coal. Who were they? Colt doesn't answer right away, just chews on a strip of bacon like it's jerky. Finally, friends of Esther, or they used to be. Depends on the price. You frown. Price of what? Keeping secrets, buying silence. You pour coffee. You owe them something? He meets your eyes. No, but they think I do. You spend the day mending the chicken coop, not because the hens need it. They don't. But because you need something to do that feels like building instead of unraveling. Colt paces the property line like a restless animal, checks traps, scans the horizon. Once you catch him muttering under his breath. It sounds like he's apologizing, but there's no one near enough to hear. That evening, a storm rolls in sudden and strange. 1 minute the sky's clear, the next, it's split with purple lightning. You rush to gather what's left of the laundry off the line. Colt's already in the barn, checking the animals. Rain hits like thrown gravel, wind kicks up, and just before you slam the cabin door shut, you see it. A figure standing at the edge of the tree line, too far to see the face, too still to be casual, watching. You don't tell Colt right away. Not because you want to hide it, but because you're starting to realize something strange. You don't entirely trust the man who saved you from being invisible, and yet, you also don't trust anyone else more. Later, after the storm, you sit by the fire. You're sewing a button back onto your only decent blouse. Colt speaks without looking up from his sharpening stone. "You know why I picked you? Really?" You look at him. "I thought I did." "I thought you'd survive it," he says. "Whatever came next." You pause. "That a compliment?" He chuckles. "The best I've got." He stands, stretches. The firelight cuts across his face, shadowing one side, warming the other. "You ever think about leaving?" he asks. "All the time." "But you haven't." You glance down at the button. "Maybe I like finishing what I start." He nods, walks towards the door, opens it, then freezes. You move beside him and see it, hung from the fence post, again, a single braid of red hair wrapped around a thorn. You burn it. Colt watches the fire like it might confess something. Then he says, "We don't have much time left." You ask, "Until what?" He doesn't answer, just looks out into the night like it's about to speak, and you wonder what he's waiting to hear, and whether you'll survive hearing it too. You barely sleep. Every creak feels deliberate. Every gust of wind sounds like footsteps just outside the wall. When dawn finally comes, it's thin and gray, like the sky can't commit to being morning. Colt's already at the table, a rifle across his lap. He doesn't say good morning, just nods toward the coffee pot. You pour 2 cups, sit, sip. Finally, you ask, "What's coming?" He doesn't answer right away. Then, reckoning. You set your cup down slowly. Yours or mine? He looks at you. Hours. The day passes in small movements. Colt teaches you how to reload the Winchester, how to sight a shot from the barn window. You'd laugh if it wasn't so quiet between you. You're not preparing for bandits or animals. You're preparing for someone who knows your name. At noon, you hear hooves. Colt motions you behind the door. You grip the rifle. Your breath shortens. But it's only a courier, the same boy who runs telegrams and parcels from town. He tosses a sealed envelope to the porch without stopping. Colt picks it up with 2 fingers like it might bite, opens it, reads, then burns it in the hearth without a word. You don't ask what it said. He doesn't offer. Later you saddle the horses without being asked. Colt raises an eyebrow. "Going somewhere?" "We need supplies," you say, and answers. He hesitates, then nods. You ride out just before dusk, following the creek road into the valley. The sun bleeds down behind the hills. The air smells of sage and ash. At the edge of town, Colt veers right. Away from the mercantile, you follow. You arrive at an old mission, roof half collapsed, windows shattered. Inside, the pews are stacked. In the corners, dust thick enough to write names in. Colt kneels behind the altar, lifts a loose board, reveals a box. Inside, letters, deeds, a revolver, and 1 small cloth bundle. He hands it to you. Inside it, a ring, too small for your finger, too worn to shine. "This was Maybelle's," he says. You hold it, unsure why. Then he says, "She didn't leave." You freeze. "What do you mean?" "She was taken, or traded, depending on who you ask." You whisper, "You lied." He nods. "I did." You set the ring back in the cloth, wrap it tight, and give it back. "What now?" you ask. He tucks it into his coat. "Now we finish what she couldn't." The ride home is silent. Even the horses feel the tension. Halfway there, you see it, a figure on the trail ahead. Alone, tall, gun across their back. You and Colt stop at the same time. But the figure doesn't move, just stands, watching, then lifts one hand, points towards the mountains, then disappears into the trees. You don't chase, you don't speak, you just ride on, knowing something's changed, and not in your favor. That night, Colt stays inside. You sit by the window, rifle across your knees, not because you expect trouble tonight, but because trouble already knows your name, and it's coming in slow, like a storm that doesn't rush, just waits for the moment you blink. You wake to scratching, soft, repetitive, not animal. You rise barefoot, cross the floor slowly, the sounds coming from beneath the house. You kneel by the hearth, press your ear to the floorboards. There, a scrape, then a whisper. You crawl toward the saddle house. The air's sharp, metallic. The door creaks open without resistance. You step inside. It's darker than you remember. The corners feel closer. The ledger still sits on the shelf, the red glove beside it. But something else catches your eye. A broken floorboard, loosened. You kneel, pry it up. Beneath it, letters, dozens, all addressed to Maybelle Bellamy, postmarked from towns miles away. Most are unopened. One has been slit clean and read to pieces. You hold it to the light. The ink is faded but legible. He says he'll marry her, but he still carries your picture. He lies, Maybelle, just like he always did. You fold the letter, carefully. Behind you, a board creaks. You spin, but the saddle house is empty. Almost. In the dust, fresh footprints, small, barefoot, leading away from the hidden compartment and out the open door. You find Colt sharpening his knife again. He doesn't stop when you enter. I found her letters, you say. He nods once, keeps working. Someone was in the saddle house last night. Still sharpening, still silent. Small feet, no boots, no explanation. He finally stops, looks up. Some stories repeat themselves, he says, even when we bury them. You slam the letter on the table. She loved you. She feared me. She trusted you. He stands, slow, and for the first time you see something behind his eyes that doesn't match the man you thought you were pretending with. Guilt. Regret. No. Terror. She's not dead, he whispers. You back up. He doesn't follow. She's coming back, he says, and not for forgiveness. That night, you pack. You tell yourself it's just precaution. But when you tie your satchel shut, it feels like goodbye. You leave the ring on the nightstand. Colt sees it, says nothing, just watches you with that tired, too-old look in his eyes. Whatever she was, you say, you turned her into something worse. He nods, doesn't deny it. Before dawn, you saddle the mare. Colt stands by the gate. He's not trying to stop you, but he says one thing just before you ride. She'll come for you too. You wear my name now. You shake your head. I never wore your name, just your shadow. You ride out with the sky still bruised. Behind you, the ranch fades into mist, and something follows. Not Colt, not footsteps, just the knowing that some people don't get haunted, they get hunted. You wake to shotgun barrels pointing at your chest. The dawn light cuts through slats in the cabin wall, cold, hard, unforgiving. You sit up slowly, heart thumps like a war drum. The woman stands in the doorway, tall as a sycamore, gun held steady. Her long skirt brushes the floor, dust swirls at her boots. She doesn't blink, doesn't hesitate. "Get down," she says, voice as smooth as porcelain, but it cracks like ice. You slide from the bed, hands rise empty. Colt stumbles in behind her. His cane hits the floor. She tilts her head. "You first," she says to him. He holds up his hands, wincing. She levels the barrel at him. "Hand over the deed," she demands, "and nobody gets hurt." You glance at Colt. His face is pale, drawn. "You aren't real," you hear yourself say. She laughs, brittle, sharp. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm as real as your shadow." She steps aside. You see Colt's hand shake as he reaches for the ledger on the table. He flips through pages. She watches him. "Sign it here," she says, pointing to a line. He hesitates. You feel a tremor in the air, like the sky holds its breath. You step forward. "Why do you want him?" The woman's dark eyes snap to you. "Because he promised me forever." You see pain flash across her face, quick as lightning, gone before you name it. "Then why this?" you ask. "Why threaten two innocent lives?" She narrows her eyes. Nothing innocent about living on stolen land. She pulls a photograph from her bodice pocket. You recognize it. Maybelle Bellamy, tall and proud, her smile faded, eyes wary. "She was my sister," the woman says, "and this devil here swore he'd wed her." Colt closes the ledger. Its pages rustle like dying leaves. He looks at you. You see remorse in his eyes, then steel. "I never married her," he says softly. The woman's finger tightens on the trigger. "But you forced her hand." He straightens, limps forward. "Esther," he says, "enough." She wavers. For a moment you think she might pull the trigger, but she lowers the gun. "You lied," she says to him, and she paid the price. Colt turns away. You notice the photograph trembling in Esther's hand. Your chest aches. You step closer to her. "She trusted him," you say, voice low, "just like I did." Esther's gaze flickers. Pain mixes with fury. She presses the photo against her heart. "I came for justice," she whispers. You nod, understand too well. "No one survives betrayal unchanged," you say. She stares at you, then at Colt. Her shoulders slump. She tucks the photo away. "You get one day," she says, "one day to set it right." Then she turns and walks into the morning mist. The cabin feels empty. Colt sinks onto the bed. You stand in the doorway, the air still humming with tension. He doesn't look at you. You cross the room, stand by him. He flinches when you touch his arm. "I'm sorry," he says, voice cracking. You sit beside him. Outside, crows call in a broken chorus. You breathe. "We have one day," you repeat. He nods. You meet his eyes. And then, he swallows. "Then we finish it." You rest your head on his shoulder. The ledger lies open on the table. Pages flutter in the breeze from the open window. You close your eyes. Promise yourself you'll stand tall. Not because you're taller now, but because you've learned to straighten your own back and face the storm head on. Snow falls by sundown, heavy, silent, relentless. It comes fast, burying the world in white before you've even lit the second lamp. The wind shrieks around the cabin like something angry and half alive. You pack blankets under the doorframe, hammer the shutters closed. Colt checks the stove, then the rifle, then the back door, twice. Outside, the trail disappears. No prints, no road, just white on white. You're trapped, inside a cabin with a man who's lied, and a past that keeps clawing through the walls. Colt doesn't sit, just paces, limps slower than usual, like the cold is chewing on his bones. "You think she's coming back tonight?" you ask. He doesn't look at you. "I think she never left." You draw a blanket over your shoulders. The cabin creaks with every gust. "She said Maybelle was her sister." "She was," he says. You wait. When he doesn't continue, you press. "What happened to her?" He finally stops pacing, stares into the fire. "She followed me out here. Said she didn't care what I'd done, just wanted to start over." You sit still. "She found the ledger," he says. "Tried to burn it." You watch his face. The muscles in his jaw don't move. "I stopped her," he says. Grabbed her wrist. "Harder than I meant to." Silence. Then, "She ran into the woods. I searched. For days. Never found her." You close your eyes. "Did you kill her?" He flinches. "No, but I made her afraid, and that's enough." You open your eyes. Look at him. Really look. You say nothing. But you don't look away. Hours pass. The storm thickens. You can't even see the barn from the front window. Colt drags 2 chairs close to the stove. You sit. Fold your hands in your lap. "What happens if we don't give her the land?" you ask. "She takes it anyway," he says, "or burns it down." "And if we do?" "She disappears, or comes back with more guns." You sigh. Not much of a choice. He glances at you. It never was. At midnight, the fire sputters low. You both sit in silence. Then a sound. Soft, barefoot steps on fresh snow. Then a knock. 3 gentle raps. You both freeze. Another knock. You move to the door, but Colt's already there. He presses his back against the wall, finger on the trigger. Then he opens it. Slow, careful, nothing. Just snow, and a single red glove nailed to the door frame. Inside it, a note. Sunrise. He tears it down, closes the door, bolts it. You hold the glove. It's the same glove you saw in the saddle house, only now it's yours. The initials are stitched different. Not MB, but DC, your initials. You stare at Colt. He's already staring at you. She's not just after me, he says. She wants everything I touched. You drop the glove into the fire. The leather curls. The thread sizzles. Smoke coils toward the rafters. You whisper, "We won't survive sunrise, will we?" Colt leans against the door, and for once, doesn't answer. You don't sleep, neither does Colt. He spends the rest of the night seated at the table, the rifle across his knees, watching the door like it might confess something. You sit across from him, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee gone cold. Snow still falls, but softer now, like the sky has emptied out its anger and is settling into grief. Colt finally breaks the silence. "I never told you everything." You nod. "I figured." He shifts in his chair, stares at the ledger lying shut between you like it might explode. "The land," he starts, then swallows. "It was never mine." You blink. "What do you mean?" "I forged the deed," he says, "years ago. The real owner died out near Silver Bend. No kin, no one to file the claim. So I took it." You sit back slowly. "So everything you promised me." He looks away. "I thought I'd fix it before anyone found out. Build something real. Make it mine after the fact." You exhale. "And Esther?" "She found out. So did Maybelle. And they gave me a choice. Leave or make it legal. I chose the third thing. You don't have to ask what that was. You already know." At sunrise, the wind stops. The quiet is sudden, unnatural. You and Colt step outside together, boots crunching into the crust of new snow. The sky's pale gold, horizon bleeding faint pinks, and there, at the edge of the property, stands Esther. She's not alone. 2 riders behind her, faces wrapped against the cold, rifles slung low. Colt walks forward, slow. You walk beside him. Esther doesn't move. When you're within earshot, she calls out, "I want the land." Colt nods. "It's yours." You stiffen, look at him. He doesn't meet your eyes. "You're giving it up?" you ask. "I never owned it," he says. He pulls the real deed from his coat, the forged one, too, walks to Esther, holds them out. She takes them without a word, unfolds each, glances over the names, then tears the forged deed in half, keeps the real one, slips it into her coat, then looks at you. "He's free now," she says. "But you're not." You square your shoulders. "Why me?" "Because you're the next ghost, if you stay." She mounts her horse. The other riders follow. Just before she disappears into the trees, she calls out, "Bury the past, or it'll bury you." Then she's gone. Back in the cabin, Colt doesn't speak. He sits by the fire, hat in his hands. You stand at the window. The snow glows faintly under the rising sun. Finally, you say, "It's over." Colt shakes his head. "It never is." You don't wait for him to explain. You put on your coat, grab the ledger, and head out the door without a word. Colt doesn't follow. The snow crunches under your boots, now hardened and wet from the morning thaw. You make your way to the ridge above the property, the place where the land rolls high enough to see every fence, every hoof print, every scar. You kneel in the wind and open the ledger. One by one you tear the pages out, every name, every crime, every promise, sealed in red. The wind takes some of the scraps. You burn the rest. Smoke rises in weak spirals, fading fast in the pale light. You whisper a name, hers, and for a moment, It feels like the land exhales. Just once. Then quiet. You head back down. Colt waits on the porch, arms folded. You done? You nod. If she comes back, there's nothing left for her to hold over us. He watches you like he's weighing more than your words. Finally, he says, "There's one more thing." You follow him around the side of the house, where the snow is still unbroken. He leads you to a wooden post sticking from the ground. At its base, a worn stone. No name, no date, just a broken locket nailed into the wood. "She died out here," Colt says, "but I didn't want her buried as a mistake." You kneel, brush the snow from the stone. "I'll carve her name," you say, "both of them." He nods. "She deserves that." You pull your gloves off, press your bare palm to the stone. Cold bites deep, but it grounds you. She haunted you because you buried truth with her. You say. Colt looks out over the ranch. "And now?" "She'll sleep." That night, you cook beans and cornbread. Colt sets the table. You eat slow, quiet, like survivors instead of strangers. "You know the land's not yours anymore," you say. He shrugs. "It never was." You sip your coffee. "But it could be." He lifts an eyebrow. "If we file together," you say, "under my name." We start again. He studies you. "Why would you do that?" "Because someone has to break the pattern." You reach across the table, take his hand. "And maybe I'm just tall enough to do it." He laughs, low, rough, surprised. "Maybe you are." Outside, the snow softens. Inside, the shadows retreat. For the first time in weeks, the cabin feels warm, like a place that might survive spring. The town courtroom is one room wide and one window deep. Dust floats in the sunbeams like slow-motion snowfall. The benches creak with every breath from the 24 townsfolk packed inside, not for justice but for gossip. You stand at the front in a borrowed dress, hair pinned up tight. Colt sits beside you, shoulders square, hat in his lap. The judge, a man with more mustache than mercy, raps once on the desk. "Let's keep it plain," he says. "You say the land wasn't rightly claimed. Now you want to fix that?" You nod, "Under my name." "Why not his?" he asks, thumbing toward Colt. You meet the judge's eyes, steady. "Because he lied once, and I won't let that lie grow roots." A murmur ripples behind you. The judge frowns. "You sure you want this weight on your back?" You nod again. "I carried worse when no one was looking. I'll carry this where they can." He leans back in his chair. "And what makes you think you're fit to own?" You lift your chin. "Because I stayed when I could have run. Because I know the land better than I know my own reflection. And because, tall or not, I can stand." The courtroom holds its breath. The judge taps his gavel once. "Claim granted. Land goes to Delia Carter. Full rights, full title." You exhale. It feels less like winning, more like unlocking a gate that's been rusted shut. Outside, Clara Mayfield waits with arms folded. "Didn't think you'd actually pull it off," she says. You smile. "Didn't think you were still watching." She snorts. Hard to ignore a girl who shows up to court in a man's boots. You glance down. The hem of your borrowed dress barely brushes the top of Colt's hand-me-down boots. They're too big. You keep them anyway. Clara steps closer. "For what it's worth, I wouldn't have had the guts." You nod. "Most days, neither did I." She walks off, boots clicking sharp and high like a challenge. But you've already won the only height contest that matters. Colt rides beside you on the way home. You don't speak much. Don't need to. The land greets you like an old friend. The fields still frozen. The barn still half sagging. But now, it's yours. The cabin door creaks the same way it always has, The hearth crackles to life with a single match. You stand at the window, watching the sky stain orange. "I ever tell you the first thing I noticed about you?" Colt asks. You smile without turning. "Nope." He steps beside you. "It wasn't your height." You turn to him. "Then what?" He nods toward the field. "You didn't lean, not once, even when folks tried to bend you." You reach up, brush your hair back. "Well," you say, "I'm done ducking too." Colt grins. The sun slips behind the hills, and you, still small, still standing, finally see the land rise to meet you. You spend the next week mending what the snow didn't destroy. Fences, mostly. Some splintered, some sagged, all of them stubborn. Colt helps in the mornings, then rides into town most afternoons, checking in with the land office, picking up supplies, listening for whispers. You notice how folks look at him now. Not like a ghost, but like a man made flesh again. Imperfect, but real. Some tip their hats, some still spit in the dirt when he passes. Either way, he walks straighter. At night, he reads aloud by the fire, voice rough, low, calming. You sew, cook, write. Most of it feels ordinary, but not small, never again small. Then on the 8th day, a rider comes. Not Esther, not a ghost, but a man you recognize, Sheriff Carver. He tips his hat, but doesn't dismount. "You filed under your name," he says, "and the Bellamy name's still tied to 6 debts and 1 open inquiry." You nod. "And?" He shrugs. "That makes you liable." You don't blink. "I figured." He leans forward in the saddle. "You want out? This is your window." You cross your arms. "I'm not crawling out anything I just built with my own hands." He stares at you, squints, then grins. "You sound like a landowner." You nod. "I am." He rides off without another word. Colt watches from the porch. "Well?" You say, "We owe 6 debts and 1 ghost." He whistles low. "I'll fix the debts." You look at him. "And the ghost?" He looks back. "You already did." But the ghost's not done yet. That night, as the wind shifts, you feel it in your ribs. Something unfinished. You step outside, Colt behind you. The moon is full, the snow patchy, the land quiet. Too quiet. Then you see it. A single boot print. Not yours, not his, just one. Pressed deep at the threshold of the barn. No other marks, no trail in or out. Colt exhales. You whisper, "She's testing us." He says, "No. She's reminding us." You step to the print. Place your boot beside it, smaller, but steadier. You speak aloud, to the empty field, to the ridge, to the cold air itself. You can rest now. We're not running. The wind answers with a hush, not angry, almost proud. You sleep that night without waking. In the morning the print is gone, replaced by frost, and a small sprout rising from the place it stood, green, alive, the first sign of spring. You plant the garden by hand, each seed a promise, each row a quiet rebellion against the voices that once told you what you couldn't be. Too small, too plain, too invisible to matter. You press your palm to the dirt like a signature. The earth is cold, stubborn, and real beneath your skin. Colt watches from the porch, his cane resting beside him, not needed today. The sun climbs slow, you work slower. No rush, no storm coming, no ghost riding the horizon, just the wind and time. By mid-afternoon the laundry snaps on the line. The coffee cools untouched, and you find yourself staring at the ridge where she once stood. You haven't spoken her name in days, not out loud, but you feel her everywhere, in the way you walk taller now, in the way Colt lets silence stretch instead of trying to fill it. In the ring that still rests in the drawer, untouched but not forgotten, there are no hauntings left, only history, and history you've learned can be rewritten. The town sends a boy with papers. They want to name the trail that crosses your land. They ask if you have a preference. You think for a moment, then write, Bellamy Hollow. When Colt sees it, he doesn't say anything, just nods once and walks out to chop more wood than you need. Some grief is better handled by splinters and sweat. Weeks pass. The frost lifts. The chickens lay more. The stove is lit less often. You mend the windows. He repairs the roof. There are days where no one speaks for hours, and those are the days that feel the most like peace. One morning a girl from town, barely 13, rides up alone. Says she heard you're the woman who stood in court and won without raising her voice. You offer her tea. She asks you how. You tell her the truth. You didn't win by being loud. You won by being the last one standing, even when your knees shook, even when the ground tried to bury you. At sunset, you and Colt sit beneath the cottonwood, the light slanting gold across your boots. He breaks the silence. You ever regret it? You look out across the land. Yours now, fully, finally. I regret not standing tall sooner. He nods. You take his hand. The quiet deepens. The wind moves gentle through the grass. And for the first time in a long time, the land hums with nothing but now. You close your eyes. Breathe deep. Not because you're tired, but because you know exactly where you are, exactly who you are. Not the tallest, not the loudest, but rooted, unshaken, and enough.